3. Atlas is leading Nibiru back. A comet has shown itself in a region of space where, by all expectations, a comet simply shouldn't be. And with that unexpected appearance, an old warning seems to stir once more. Thousands of years ago, Sumerian priests spent their nights studying the sky, carefully noting what they saw, and they wrote about a crimson traveler, a red wanderer whose arrival, they believed, signaled the return of the Anunnaki, powerful beings said to have come from a faraway world. In our own time, astronomers are now observing something that traces an oddly similar route through the heavens, an object we have named 3I Atlas. This narrative draws a line between ancient prophecy and a new point of light above us, and it quietly asks why so many clues seem to hint at a return that may already be unfolding. If stories like this, calm and mysterious, resonate with you, stay with us and subscribe as we continue to watch the sky and follow these subtle signs. Long before cities took shape from dust and stone, long before written stories traveled from one land to another, people lived beneath still, silent skies and paid close attention to every motion overhead. The Sumerian priests were careful and methodical observers, tracking even the smallest changes in the heavens and pressing those observations into clay tablets. To them, the sky was not empty or indifferent. It was alive, filled with meaning, carrying messages from realms far beyond Earth itself. One light, above all others, unsettled them deeply. It moved unlike any ordinary star, drifting slowly, with a sense of weight, almost as if it were tracing a vast path that looped around all of existence. They called it the Red Wanderer. In their understanding, this object was more than a point of light. It was a sign, a warning, a marker left behind by beings they knew as the Anunnaki. They believed this wandering glow announced a repeating cycle, a return that echoed again and again throughout history. Whenever the Red Wanderer appeared in the sky, moments of profound change seemed to follow. Floods arrived, darkness spread, kingdoms rose to power or fell into ruin, and the world, as they knew it, shifted once more. Today, astronomers talk about a peculiar interstellar object that seems to behave in much the same way, and they have given it a modern name. They refer to it as 3I Atlas, though the ancient priests would have murmured another title, calling it a sign of return. The oldest surviving star records show neat lines and tiny impressions pressed into clay, forming patterns that closely match motions still observed in the sky today. Modern researchers sometimes place these ancient star charts alongside the projected path of 3I Atlas, and the resemblance is hard to dismiss. The Sumerians wrote that the Red Wanderer did not truly belong to our sky. They believed it came from far beyond, from a realm they described as the darkness behind the wind. In their view, the Wanderer returned on a vast cycle, one associated with change, warning, and the presence of the Anunnaki. Even without advanced instruments, they sensed something out of the ordinary. They recorded that the Wanderer did not move like other lights. It slowed, seemed to hesitate, and then continued onward as if guided by a deeper intention. Today, when scientists examine the trajectory of 3I Atlas, many acknowledge that it moves in ways that challenge their expectations. They note slow acceleration, an unusual path, and a brightening that occurred earlier than their models had predicted. According to the ancient texts, this behavior appears when the Wanderer is nearing its purpose. If that interpretation holds any truth, then perhaps the first sign has already returned to our sky. Across multiple Sumerian cities, the same symbol appears again and again, a circle topped with a long tail carved into stone or clay. This was their mark for the Wanderer. Some tablets even depict priests pointing upward, as though urging people to remain alert to what was approaching. They believed the Wanderer was not just a sign of return, but also a sign of judgment. When the cycle began, the world would change. New rulers would emerge, old powers would fade, and the Anunnaki would decide who would guide the next age. Modern astronomers do not speak of gods. Instead, they discuss unexpected velocity, unknown origin, and unusual composition. Yet the outcome sounds remarkably similar. Something is moving toward us from a region far beyond our star, something that does not follow familiar rules. The Sumerians would have said this meant the cycle had opened once again, and that the first light of the prophecy was already present in the sky. But if this is only the first sign, then what follows? And what did the ancients believe would come after the wanderer's return? Some ancient accounts describe moments when the wanderer grew brighter than expected, almost as if it were reacting to something unseen. One old tablet tells of a night when priests gathered on the highest platform and watched the red light pulse slowly across the heavens. They believed this was a sign that the wanderer was awakening, preparing for the next stage of its long journey. The language in these writings is simple, but the emotion behind it is unmistakable. They felt awe, fear, and a strong sense that the sky itself was moving with purpose. The wanderer was not merely passing through. It was following an ancient pattern. Modern scientists may use different terms, but their observations echo a similar feeling. They speak of unexpected brightening, unexplained shifts in direction, and an energy signature that does not align with natural comets. Some even suggest that 3i Atlas behaves as if it is adjusting to forces we are not yet able to measure. When these findings are set beside the old Sumerian descriptions, the connection becomes difficult to overlook. The ancient watchers believed the wanderer responded to the world it approached, and that every change in the sky carried meaning. If their account holds any truth, then these early changes may be more than coincidence. Among the most puzzling tablets is one that shows two figures standing beneath the wanderer. They are not human forms, but tall shapes draped in long garments, gazing upward as if waiting for a sign. The priests wrote that these figures were the Anunnaki, the ancient teachers who once walked among early people. They believed the wanderer was linked to them, serving as a marker of their path through the heavens. The return of the wanderer meant the return of those who guided the first cities, shaped early knowledge, and taught people how to build, measure, and understand the world. Whether this is myth or distant memory, the tablet suggests the wanderer was never alone. It carried meaning, intention, and a connection to something greater. Today, scientists focus on the unusual motion of 3i Atlas. But the ancient stories add another layer, one that places the wanderer within a larger cycle involving those early beings. If the Sumerians were right, then the bright sign now visible is only the beginning. The next chapter leads to the realm the Anunnaki were said to rule long ago, a place of teachers, builders, and watchers. And that raises one question. What kind of world did they leave behind for us to discover again, long before recorded history, long before the first cities, the first books, or the first kings? The ancient tales say that the Anunnaki once walked upon the early earth. They were described as tall, glowing figures, carrying a depth of knowledge that seemed far beyond what humans of that age could possibly grasp. In the earliest Sumerian myths, they were more than rulers, they were guides and teachers. They taught people how to carve canals, measure fields, read the movements of the sky, and shape stone into monuments that have endured for thousands of years. These accounts may sound like legends, yet the details appear oddly consistent across different regions, hinting that something more profound may lie beneath the stories. Some early cities expanded far more rapidly than normal human development would suggest, with stone blocks cut at perfect angles, star charts carved with unexpected precision, and mathematical patterns emerging long before such abilities should have existed. According to the Sumerians, these achievements were not created by humans alone, but were gifts bestowed by the Anunnaki. They believed there was once a kingdom where these ancient teachers ruled openly, guiding humanity step by step. When that kingdom came to an end, knowledge was lost, scattered, or hidden away. And now, as the wanderer reappears in the sky, some believe that this old kingdom may be preparing to show itself once more. Many ancient carvings depict the Anunnaki holding unusual objects, tools that do not resemble weapons, but rather instruments for measurement, energy, or learning. Some appear as slender rods, others as circular devices, and still others as tablets covered in symbols that remain undeciphered today. The people of that era described these objects as gifts from the sky. They said the Anunnaki did not arrive through ordinary travel, but by a pathway that connected different worlds. These ideas may seem impossible from a modern perspective, yet the carvings and symbols repeat the same message again and again. Knowledge came from above, and it transformed everything. When modern researchers compare ancient myths from Mesopotamia Anatolia, and even early India, they find striking similarities. There are repeated stories of beings from the sky, stories of teachers who arrived suddenly, stories of builders who shaped great cities and then disappeared. Some archaeologists argue that these are products of shared imagination, while others admit that the level of similarity is difficult to explain. The Sumerians believed the Anunnaki left because the world entered a new era, one that humans had to shape on their own. But they also wrote that the teachers would return when the sky revealed a specific sign, and as three-eyed Atlas moves across our night sky, some wonder if that moment has arrived. One ancient myth speaks of a hidden place, a city said to have been built by the Anunnaki themselves. It was described as a realm of gentle light, where knowledge flowed like water, and the air shimmered with a strange energy. Some accounts portray it as a meeting point between Earth and the sky, a place where messages could pass between worlds. The story claims this city was not destroyed, but sealed away when the teachers departed. Over time, memory faded, but small clues remained. Carved stars pointing toward forgotten directions. Tunnels closed with stones, unlike any human craftsmanship, and symbols that glow faintly when touched by firelight. Some modern explorers have uncovered ruins that seem older than any known civilization, with walls fused by heat rather than built by hand, stones cut with a precision beyond ancient tools, and unusual metallic traces that do not match the surrounding region. These findings have no clear explanation, but the Sumerians would say the answer is simple. The old kingdom is not gone, it is waiting. And if the wanderer in our sky truly marks a return, then the path to that forgotten place may soon open again. But what secrets did the teachers leave behind? And for whom were they waiting? Ancient legends describe a time when the Anunnaki walked openly among the first cities. They were portrayed as calm and quiet, moving with a purpose others could not understand. It was said that knowledge carried through their voices, and power shimmered in the light that surrounded them. Some stories claim the Anunnaki could speak to the sky itself, calling down signs or guiding the seasons through rituals long since forgotten. Whether these accounts are true or merely fragments of memory, one thing is certain. Early people believed these beings shaped the world in ways that human hands alone could never achieve. As centuries passed, the stories changed, but the symbols remained. Tall figures with wings of light, hands lifted toward the stars, and a circular object hovering above them. Some researchers interpret these carvings as symbols of spiritual connection. Others see something more literal, a record of a time when the Anunnaki led humanity through a period of sudden growth and shared knowledge. If such a kingdom truly existed, its influence can still be felt in the ruins left behind. One of the most enigmatic Sumerian stories describes a council held by the Anunnaki before they departed from the world. The tale says they gathered upon a high stone platform and turned their gaze toward a star that drifted across the sky with a slow, steady glow, as if marking the moment of their leaving and the promise of a future return. The priests believed this star served as their guide, a light that traced the way back to a distant home. They recorded that the Anunnaki spoke about cycles, about journeys stretching across thousands of years, and about a moment when the sky itself would send a sign that the route was open once more. That sign, they said, would reveal itself when the Red Wanderer appeared again in the heavens. Today, the idea of such an immense orbit may sound like legend. But modern astronomy has shown that certain celestial objects do follow extraordinarily vast paths through space. Some even suggest that a world like Nibiru could travel in this way, becoming visible in the sky only once over many ages. If the Sumerians truly witnessed the beginning of such a cycle, then they may have preserved the earliest hints of this unusual journey. And now, as we examine 3i Atlas and question where it comes from, an old question seems to rise from the most ancient tablets. What if the Wanderer is not traveling by itself? And what if another world is moving along that same ancient route? This carries us into the next part of the story, the long and silent path of Nibiru. In the oldest Sumerian texts, the course of Nibiru is described as a sweeping arc through deep darkness, a journey so immense that it takes countless ages to complete. They said this world did not move like the others. It slipped beneath the plains of familiar stars. vanished beyond the limits of human understanding, and then returned after thousands of years had passed. This idea once seemed beyond belief. Yet today, astronomers recognize that some celestial bodies can follow extremely elongated orbits, routes that carry them far beyond the outer regions of the system before slowly guiding them back toward the Sunday. The Sumerians believed Nibiru followed such a path, one that brought profound change each time it returned. According to their accounts, when Nibiru drew near, the sky behaved in unusual ways. Storms intensified, seasons shifted, and the stars themselves appeared to tremble. People did not see this as chance, but as evidence that something powerful was moving through the heavens. Modern researchers who study distant trans-Neptunian objects have noticed patterns that feel strangely familiar: unexpected tilts, unexplained gravitational influences, and orbits that curve in ways they should not. To the ancients, these signs were warnings. To us, they may be clues. And now, as 3i Atlas follows its own unusual track across the sky, some wonder whether its path and the path of Nibiru might be connected in a way we no longer fully grasp. The Sumerians believed Nibiru was not just a world, but a keeper of time. They said it returned at the end of each long cycle to observe how Earth had changed. Some tablets describe that when Nibiru approached, the Anunnaki prepared for decisions that would shape entire ages. These stories speak of long councils, of ancient teachers watching the world from a distance, and of a moment when their power would rise or fall depending on the progress of humanity. While these accounts may sound symbolic, they reveal something meaningful. The ancients saw Nibiru as a world tied to destiny, a world whose motion influenced the fate of Earth. Today, some astronomers have uncovered mathematical hints suggesting that a hidden planet may exist beyond the edge of our system. They describe it as a hypothetical world, a distant giant whose gravity subtly shapes the orbits of smaller bodies around it. Although this idea remains unconfirmed, it echoes the ancient belief in a faraway world that returns. If Nibiru does exist, and if its orbit brings it near our system at long intervals, then the cycle described on the tablets may be more than myth. And as the bright trail of 3i Atlas moves across our sky, it raises the same question the Sumerians asked long ago. What arrives first, the sign or the world itself? Some myths portray Nibiru as a world of deep fire and dark oceans, a place where light bends in unfamiliar ways and the air glows faintly. They said the Anunnaki came from this world, carrying knowledge shaped by forces Earth had never encountered. According to these legends, Nibiru's long journey granted the Anunnaki a unique perspective on the universe. They traveled through regions of space where time flowed differently, where darkness moved like water, and where the stars themselves seemed younger. These stories may sound impossible, but they reveal how the Sumerians imagined a world far beyond human reach. Modern science shows that space is filled with environments more extreme than anything found on Earth. Worlds of frozen methane, planets where diamond rain may fall, and stars that pulse with invisible waves of energy. If a world like Nibiru truly follows a vast looping orbit beyond our sun, it may pass through regions unlike anything we can picture. That journey could shape its surface, its atmosphere, and the beings who live upon it. And now, as 3i Atlas draws nearer, some begin to ask whether this wanderer is merely a symbol or perhaps a signal guiding the way for something far more significant. If the route of Nibiru is opening once again, what else could be traveling along that same path? Certain ancient tablets speak of an event known as the crossing, a moment when Nibiru and the wandering star align in the sky. The Sumerians believed this alignment opened a passage between worlds, allowing signs and messages to pass through the heavens. They recorded that during this time the air felt heavier, animals became uneasy, and the night sky appeared brighter than usual. These accounts may sound symbolic, yet they show a careful awareness of repeating patterns in the sky. The ancients sensed that major events were tied not only to Earth, but also to the movement of distant worlds, drifting silently through space. Modern astronomers have observed comparable effects when studying rare alignments, including subtle gravitational changes, unusual energy readings, and even shifts in how comets behave. When objects pass close to one another in space, they can influence each other in ways that are difficult to anticipate. Some researchers suggest that if a world like Nibiru truly exists, its trajectory could affect nearby bodies, including objects such as 3I Atlas. This idea closely reflects the ancient belief that the Wanderer and the distant world are connected. If their paths are converging once more, then the crossing described by the Sumerians may be more than myth. It could be a cycle repeating itself directly above us. As the Sumerians tracked the movement of the Wanderer, they believed it marked only the beginning of a much larger sign. They wrote that once the Wanderer appeared, the path of Nibiru would soon follow. This belief influenced the design of their temples, the structure of their calendars, and the warnings they left for those who would come after them. Many tablets describe a moment when two blazing lights would meet between worlds, a moment said to signal the start of immense change. Today, astronomers see 3I Atlas brightening more quickly than expected and altering its path in small but unusual ways. For some observers, these shifts feel strangely familiar, as though an ancient cycle is beginning once again. If you enjoy these quiet and mysterious stories of the sky, leave a like so more people can take part in this journey. Your support helps preserve these gentle narratives and invites new eyes to the mysteries above us. And now, as we move further into the prophecy, the next part reveals something even more troubling. The Sumerians left behind a message hidden within a clay tablet, a message attributed to the ancient teacher Enki himself. It speaks of two fire stars meeting in the darkness, followed by a transfer of power. Could this be what is unfolding now? And what is the tablet truly warning us about? In Sumerian tradition, Enki was known as the Old Teacher, the one who understood the deep waters below the world and the concealed pathways above it. Among the tablets connected to him, there is one that scholars still find difficult to explain. It describes a moment when two fire stars would meet between realms, an event that would alter the balance of power in the heavens. The tablet is written in deliberate, careful lines, as though the scribe feared making even the smallest error. Portions of it are damaged, yet the meaning still comes through. The meeting of the two lights signals the turning of an age and the emergence of a new order. When modern researchers translated the symbols, they expected a myth about weather or seasonal change. Instead, they found references to celestial objects, movements across the sky, and warnings connected to long cosmic cycles. Enki wrote that when the first fire star appears, it serves only as a sign. The true transformation begins when the second light follows. Many now compare this ancient message to the behavior of 3I Atlas, a wandering object that grows brighter and shifts course with unusual intent. If this is the first fire star, then the prophecy suggests another may soon follow. And if Enki was cautioning about a meeting in the sky, then the cycle he described may already be in motion. The tablet of Enki also mentions a hidden council, a gathering of the old teachers before the skies changed. It describes them standing together, watching the horizon for a sign only they could understand. They believed the meeting of the fire stars would mark the start of a new balance, a shift between the forces of creation and the forces of control. This section of the text is damaged, but its meaning is unmistakable. When the two lights approach one another, the old order comes to an end, and something new takes its place, something shaped by how humanity has developed during the long and quiet years. Modern thinkers often treat mythology as metaphor, but Enki's tablet feels different. It is not lyrical or symbolic. It is exact. It speaks of distances, timings, and repeating cycles that seem less like imagination and more like careful observation. Some scholars have proposed that ancient observers may have seen rare events in the sky and documented them with remarkable precision. If that is true, then the convergence of the two lights could point to a genuine alignment between distant objects. And as 3I Atlas travels across our sky, growing brighter and changing in ways that stretch our current models, the words attributed to Enki sound unexpectedly familiar. If the first light has already revealed itself, then what becomes of the second? One final line on the tablet stands out as the most puzzling of all. It states that when the two lights make contact, a gate opens between worlds. This gate is not described as a structure of stone or metal, but as a moment in time, an instant when the borders between realms become thin. The Sumerians believed this was the moment when the Anunnaki could move without restraint, shaping events in ways beyond human sight or understanding. They feared this time, yet they also believed it carried the possibility of renewal. To them, the meeting of the fire stars could bring destruction or guidance, depending on the choices of those living beneath the sky. Across history, tales of alignments in the heavens have often carried deep meaning. Cultures around the world viewed the sky as a reflection of Earth, a silent guide to the rise and fall of eras. When two bright objects appeared to draw close, people felt that the world itself was shifting. Today, astronomers observe Three-Eye Atlas and wonder whether it may pass near something that remains unseen. If Enki's warning truly refers to an alignment, then the most significant part of the prophecy may still be ahead of us, and as the moment he described seems to approach, the question grows stronger. What happens when the two fire stars finally meet? Some versions of Enki's prophecy include drawings that scholars continue to debate. They depict two circles of light moving toward one another. One sharp and brilliant like a burning star, the other fainter, yet surrounded by swirling markings. The ancients said these symbols stood for more than lights, they represented forces. The first fire star was seen as a sign of motion, a signal that the sky itself was shifting its balance. The second was a sign of power, something capable of reshaping the world below. When the two drew near, the Sumerians believed the very fabric of the heavens began to tremble. To them, this tremor was not a threat, but a warning. Modern scientists might interpret these symbols as early attempts to describe alignment or gravitational influence. Yet the emotion captured in the drawings suggests a deeper meaning. The priests carved these images with care, using gentle curves for the second light, as if to show that its power was quiet yet overwhelming. Some believe these images represent a world like Nibiru, moving along a vast path that brings it back after many years. Others think they point to a visitor, like Three-Eyed Atlas, a messenger traveling ahead of something far greater. Whatever the truth may be, the prophecy implies that the meeting of these lights carries consequences that extend far beyond the sky above us. The final lines of the prophecy mention something that unsettled even the ancient priests. Enki wrote that when the two fire stars come together, the old powers of the sky will be tested. He described a moment when the Anunnaki would look upon Earth and judge whether humanity had crossed boundaries set long ago. These boundaries were not physical barriers, but limits of knowledge and creation. The prophecy warns of a time when humans advance too quickly, when they learn to shape life, bend nature, and reach toward the stars themselves. In that moment, the return of the fire stars becomes more than a sign. It becomes a question. Who controls the future? The creators or the created? Today, we live in an age the Sumerians could never have imagined. We alter genes, build machines that can think, and send signals deep into space. Some believe these achievements echo precisely what Enki warned about. If the meeting of the two lights marks a test, then our world may already be entering that moment. And as Three-Eye Atlas continues its unusual journey across the sky, the prophecy guides us toward the next chapter of the story, a chapter the ancients called the conflict of the gods. What happens when the old teachers return and discover that humans have stepped into their role? Sumerian myths speak of a time before the Great Flood, when the Anunnaki disagreed over how much knowledge humanity should be allowed to possess. Enki, the teacher, believed humans should grow, learn, and shape their own destiny. Enlil, the strict guardian, believed humanity was moving too fast, stepping into realms they were not prepared to understand. These stories describe long discussions in the halls of the ancient gods, quiet debates about the balance between guidance and control. The conflict was not fought with weapons, but with ideas. How much wisdom is too much? And at what point does growth turn into danger? As the world changed, the stories say, this disagreement only grew stronger. Human beings learned to construct complex structures, chart the stars with remarkable precision, and develop tools that appeared far ahead of their era. Some traditions claimed that Enki continued to guide humanity in secret, offering help from the shadows. Others insisted that Enlil sought to restrain them, to slow their advance. Whether these accounts are meant as literal truth or symbolic lessons, they reveal a deep anxiety attributed to the old gods. They feared that humanity might ascend too far, too fast. In the present day, as we build machines that can think, alter the very patterns of life, and push ever deeper into space, that ancient tension feels unexpectedly familiar. If the Anunnaki were to return now, what would they recognize in us? According to the oldest myths, the struggle intensified when humans began to shape life itself. Stories speak of early experiments, unusual creatures, and attempts to merge knowledge from the heavens with life on Earth. Some tablets describe this period as the age of creation, while others label it the age of forbidden acts. Enki saw promise in humanity's curiosity, believing that progress was born from exploration. Enlil saw risk, convinced that humans were crossing boundaries set by the laws of the sky. These opposing views clashed repeatedly, influencing the destinies of early civilizations. Today, we find ourselves in a world where those same questions return with renewed force. We modify DNA, design systems that can learn without direct guidance, and reach farther into the universe with each passing year. To ancient observers, such abilities would have seemed impossible. Yet, they exist now, all around us. Some researchers suggest that if the myth of the Anunnaki holds any truth, they would see modern humanity as a species that has stepped into an entirely new role. The Sumerians believed this moment would arrive alongside a cosmic signal, marked by the appearance of a wandering light in the sky. And as 3i Atlas grows brighter above us, some wonder whether the ancient struggle is preparing to surface once again. Certain legends describe the point at which the disagreement between Enki and Enlil reached its height. They tell of the old gods looking down upon a world changing faster than anticipated, filled with new ideas, new creations, and towering structures reaching toward the heavens. Enki viewed this as progress, as evidence that humans were ready to stand alongside their ancient teachers. Enlil saw it as a threat, believing humanity was climbing too close to powers once reserved for the gods alone. This fear fueled tension between them, a silent conflict that shaped many events recorded in the earliest myths. What makes these stories so compelling today is how closely they echo our own reality. We create artificial minds, tools capable of learning, speaking, and even making decisions. We probe the code of life itself, rewriting patterns once thought untouchable. If the old gods were to return now, the myths suggest they would encounter a world utterly transformed. Some would feel pride, others unease. The Sumerians wrote that this moment of confrontation would return when the sky delivered a sign, and that sign would be the wandering light. As 3i Atlas moves across our sky, glowing brighter night after night, the ancient question rises once more. How would the old powers respond to what humanity has become? Some Sumerian texts describe a hidden phase when the conflict among the old gods spilled into the heavens themselves. They wrote that the sky began to behave in unusual ways. Storms appeared in seasons where they did not belong, and strange lights drifted along the horizon. The priests believed these events mirrored the arguments of the gods. When the Anunnaki disagreed, the world shook. When they observed humanity's growth, the winds shifted. When judgment approached, the air grew heavy and still. These accounts may sound poetic, yet they show how deeply the ancients believed the sky was tied to the fate of Earth. Modern scientists speak of disturbances as well, though in different terms. They discuss magnetic changes, unusual energy readings, and sudden shifts in the behavior of passing objects. Some of these phenomena remain unexplained. When 3i Atlas began to brighten more rapidly than expected, a few researchers acknowledged that the object behaves as though influenced by forces they cannot measure. To ancient observers, this would have been an unmistakable sign. The wanderer was responding to something beyond sight, something linked to the old gods and their long-standing dispute. If the skies are stirring again, then the cycle the Sumerians feared may already be unfolding above us. In the final accounts of this ancient conflict, the Sumerians wrote that the old gods would return only when humanity reached a level of understanding that challenged their position. They believed the meeting of two fire stars would test the balance between creators and creation. If humans had advanced too quickly, the return would bring struggle. If humans had grown with wisdom, the return might offer guidance. Today, we stand at a threshold the ancients could never have imagined. We build artificial minds, reshape the code of life, and reach out toward distant worlds. The question once asked by the Sumerians now becomes our own. What will the old gods witness when they return? If you enjoy these quiet and mysterious journeys through ancient stories, leave a comment and share what you think. Do you believe humanity has crossed a boundary the old gods once feared? Or are we simply growing into our role in the universe? Your voice helps this story reach other curious minds. And now, as we trace the course of the Wanderer across the modern sky, the next chapter moves us from legend into observation. Unusual signals, shifting energy, and unexplained traces have begun to appear around 3i Atlas. What did the ancients believe these signs represented, and what are we starting to recognize today? When 3i Atlas first revealed itself in the sky, astronomers expected it to behave like any ordinary interstellar object, calm, predictable, and slowly fading with time. But almost right away, odd patterns started to show themselves. The object grew brighter far more quickly than expected, then dimmed for reasons no one could account for, only to brighten again, as if reacting to something unseen. Instruments recorded small bursts of energy around it, faint pulses that did not match the known behavior of ice, rock, or dust. Some scientists argued these readings were simple errors. Others suggested they pointed to a composition unlike anything observed before. With every new measurement, the mystery deepened. As more telescopes focused on 3i Atlas, further unusual details came into view. Its tail contained metallic traces, elements that do not normally appear in natural comets. The heat it released was uneven, shifting in ways that hinted at movement beneath the surface. Some researchers compared these patterns to early observations of unknown objects in deep space. Objects that appeared to pulse with a quiet, steady energy. To the Sumerians, signs like these were never mistakes. They were messages. If an ancient prophecy spoke of a wanderer carrying signs of return, then scientists today may be witnessing the earliest clues. But what exactly is 3i Atlas revealing, and why now? Across observatories around the world, researchers began to notice something else. 3i Atlas produced a faint rhythmic signal, not a sound, but a repeating pattern in light and heat. At first, it was dismissed as background noise, yet the pattern returned again and again, consistent, slow, and strangely deliberate. Some astronomers likened it to the heartbeat of a machine. Others said it looked more like the signature of a controlled burn, as if something inside the object was releasing energy at set intervals. Each new reading challenged the assumption that the wanderer was nothing more than a simple chunk of ice drifting through space. It behaved like something with intention, something aware of its own motion. The Sumerians wrote of signs in the sky that pulsed with meaning. They believed these lights were not random events, but parts of a path connecting worlds across unimaginable distances. For them, a steady rhythm in the heavens meant the old teachers were close. Today, scientists may use different language, but the feeling is remarkably similar. The pattern coming from 3i Atlas does not fit neatly into natural explanations. It repeats with a precision that is difficult to ignore. If this is a message, it raises a question as old as civilization itself. Who, or what, set this rhythm in motion? The most unsettling finding emerged when infrared telescopes detected heat signatures around 3i Atlas that changed over time. Natural objects warm and cool gradually, following predictable cycles. This object did not. Instead, it showed sudden bursts of heat followed by periods of calm, as if something beneath its surface was stirring. Some researchers proposed internal vents or chemical reactions. Others noticed that these heat bursts occurred at regular distances along the object's path, almost like markers or beacons. These shifts lined up with several ancient star maps. Patterns, the Sumerians believed, marked the journey of the wanderer. The idea that a modern object could follow an ancient path seems impossible. Yet the data is becoming harder to dismiss. When scientists overlay the trajectory of 3i Atlas with reconstructed Sumerian diagrams, the similarities are deeply unsettling. Both show a winding arc that dips below the usual plane of motion and then rises again toward a point the tablets describe as the gate of return. If this alignment is genuine, then 3I Atlas is not merely passing through space. It is following something, or perhaps guiding us towards something. And with each new reading, that question grows louder. If these are only the first signs, what else might appear in the sky as the prophecy continues to unfold? As scientists gathered more information, another anomaly appeared in the magnetic readings around 3I Atlas. The magnetic field surrounding the object seemed to twist, bend, and ripple, as if shaped by an unseen force. Natural comets do not create patterns like this. Their magnetic signals are usually faint and uncomplicated. Yet the data collected from 3I Atlas revealed loops and spirals, repeating shapes that unfolded in slow, steady cycles. Some scientists suggested these effects could come from ordinary debris reacting with the solar wind. Others disagreed, saying the formations appeared far too ordered, far too deliberate. One astronomer even remarked that the pattern felt like the imprint of a machine, adjusting itself as it traveled through space. For ancient cultures, disturbances in magnetism were never just technical irregularities. They were signs. The Sumerians believed that as the wanderer drew near, the unseen forces of the sky began to change. They told of air that seemed to hum after nightfall, flames that twisted unnaturally in the breeze, and moments when metal compasses spun on their own, untouched by any hand. If the magnetic loops we see today resemble those ancient accounts, then 3I Atlas could be reenacting a cycle humanity observed long ago. And if these formations truly point to a concealed structure beneath the surface, then this object may not be a simple passerby at all, but something far more intricate and far more aware. During the most recent weeks of observation, the strangest finding came from a European telescope network. It detected a delicate trail following behind 3I Atlas, not composed of dust or ice, but of particles that reflected light like finely polished metal. These particles arranged themselves into patterns, creating soft curves that shifted along with the object's motion. Some researchers said it looked like remnants from an ancient construction. Others proposed it could be fragments of an outer shell or protective casing. The Sumerians, however, recorded something remarkably similar. They wrote of a wanderer surrounded by shining fragments, pieces of a vessel that once carried the old gods through the darkness. If you enjoy exploring these quiet and mysterious stories with us, tap subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. Your support helps sustain this calm journey and invites more curious minds into the narrative. Because now, as we continue to read the signs written across the sky, the next part of the prophecy turns toward meaning rather than science. The designation 3I Atlas may not be a coincidence. Ancient myths speak of a figure known as the one who holds the sky. And as we move into the next chapter, we return to the question the ancients once murmured: why does this object bear the name Atlas? And what truth might that name be concealing? The title given to this wandering object, 3I Atlas, has always carried an unusual gravity. In modern astronomy, names typically follow strict systems: catalog numbers, discovery sequences, and practical labels. Yet the word Atlas echoes from myths that long predate scientific observation. In ancient tales, Atlas was the being who carried the sky upon his shoulders, the one who bore the weight of the heavens so life below could continue undisturbed. The Sumerians shared a similar belief. They spoke of towering beings who upheld the pillars of the sky, entities who shaped the heavens and kept them stable through vast stretches of time. Some interpret these giants as early memories of the Anunnaki. What makes this more striking is how symbols tied to Atlas and the pillars of the sky appear far beyond Sumer. They emerge in ancient Greek stories, in old temple carvings, and even in ruins where no written language survives. The image of a figure supporting the heavens repeats across cultures, as though different civilizations were recalling the same account in their own words. When modern astronomers named the unusual object Atlas, they likely thought they were choosing a bold yet straightforward name. But to scholars of ancient mythology, the choice feels heavier, almost intentional. If 3I Atlas represents the first signal of a returning cycle, then its name may carry significance we have yet to grasp. Across ancient civilizations, The concept of a being bearing the weight of the sky was not merely a myth, but a lesson. It offered an explanation for the motion of the heavens, for the shifting of stars, and for the changing of seasons. These beings were more than gods. They were keepers of balance. In Sumerian writings, the entities who supported the sky were linked to the Anunnaki, described as tall, powerful figures deeply connected to the movement of the stars. Some images even show them standing beneath vast arches of light, as if holding aloft a cosmic framework stretching far beyond the world. Today, scientists speak of space-time curves, invisible forces that determine how matter moves through the universe. When 3I Atlas entered our system, its trajectory did not follow the familiar paths we expect. Instead, it dipped and rose, as though guided by something unseen. Some researchers believe it may be tracing a gravitational path left behind by another massive body. Others see the name Atlas as an echo of ancient myths, a symbol of something that supports or directs the motion of the heavens. If ancient memory and modern observation are pointing toward the same idea, then we may be standing on the threshold of an understanding that unites both worlds. What directs the wanderer on its path? And who set that direction so long ago? Certain ancient tablets include a symbol that scholars describe as the carrying mark, a curved form set beneath a circle of stars. This symbol appears alongside images of the Anunnaki, implying that they too were understood as bearers of the sky's burden. In these accounts, the world was more than just a place for life. It was part of a larger framework that needed care and balance. The motion of the heavens was seen as a sign of harmony, and whenever that balance changed, those who watched the sky paid close attention. If the name Atlas truly reflects these old symbols, then the wandering object may be connected not only to myth, but to a duty the ancient teachers protected for generations. Modern researchers often dismiss these links. They interpret symbols as decoration rather than memory. Yet, as 3I Atlas traces its unusual arc across the sky, more people begin to wonder whether the name is truly accidental. Ancient cultures believed names carried strength, meaning, and caution. If this object shares a name with the figure who supported the sky, then perhaps it supports something else as well. A message, a cycle, or a role within a prophecy that is now taking shape. And as we examine the object's trajectory more closely, another question emerges. What happens when the one who holds up the sky begins to move? Some ancient scrolls found beyond Mesopotamia contain symbols that align with the name Atlas in unexpected ways. In a long-forgotten temple, explorers uncovered a mural showing a figure standing beneath a vast circular sky, arms lifted, holding the arch of the heavens. Around this figure were smaller markings resembling early star charts. One striking detail stood out: a small glowing object painted beside the arch, a wandering light following a curved route. Scholars initially thought the mural was purely symbolic, but when astronomers compared the painted path with the real trajectory of 3I Atlas, the similarity was disturbing. The curve was almost the same. This finding triggered new conversations among scholars who study ancient traditions. Could separate cultures have preserved memories of the same event in the sky? If the figure beneath the heavens represented a guardian or observer, then the object shown in the mural may not have been symbolic at all. It may have been an actual wandering star, a visitor from deep space witnessed long ago. The Sumerians believed such visitors carried meaning and intent. If the name Atlas reflects that ancient guardian, then 3I Atlas may be more than just a comet or object. It may be a key within the prophecy, a reminder that the heavens once moved under the watch of beings who observed from above. Some historians argue that the name Atlas was chosen simply because the object seemed heavy or burdened. Others believe the choice was more instinctive, like a memory surfacing from deep in the past. Humans often name things through intuition, shaped by stories quietly passed down over time. If the name Atlas emerged naturally when this strange object appeared, then perhaps the memory of the sky holder still exists within our shared mind. Ancient civilizations believed the heavens were supported by immense forces, and when those forces shifted, entire eras changed. If 3I Atlas carries this name by chance or by fate, the meaning remains. Something in the sky is moving, and the world below senses the change. As we move deeper into the prophecy, the ancient writings grow darker. They speak of a time when the sky holders weaken, when the old gods lose their strength, and when humanity's rise can no longer be stopped. If the appearance of Three-Eye Atlas signals the return of that moment, then we may be standing on the edge of a great turning point. And so another question carries us forward. What happens when the gods themselves fall and the balance between worlds begins to fracture? In old Sumerian accounts, a quiet warning lies beneath the stories of creation and gods. They wrote that even the powerful Anunnaki were not everlasting. Their influence rose and fell in rhythm with cycles in the heavens, much like oceans rise and fall under the pull of distant moons. When the sky changed, when new lights appeared, and when ancient patterns broke, the power of the old gods began to fade. They believed the universe moved through its own seasons, long ages in which balance shifted from one force to another. During these times, the guardians of the sky weakened and new powers began to emerge. The ancients called these moments the falling of the gods. These accounts are often misread as dramatic tales of conflict or punishment. Yet the texts describe something quieter, something cosmic in scale. The Anunnaki were bound to the movement of distant worlds. Their authority was tied to precise cosmic conditions, the alignment of the stars, the placement of Nibiru, and the return of the Wanderer itself. When that great cycle reached its highest point, their age began to fade little by little. The Sumerians held the belief that once humanity achieved a certain depth of understanding, once people began shaping their own destiny without outside direction, the influence of the ancient gods would start to weaken. If Three-Eye Atlas truly represents the signal of a renewed cycle, then we may be witnessing the very moment the ancients warned about, a time when the sky subtly changes and the era of gods begins to slip away. According to the surviving texts, the fall of the gods was never described as their destruction, but as a loss of control and authority. The writings explain that when the Wanderer appeared again, humanity would rise higher than it ever had before. Cities would stretch upward toward the heavens, knowledge would spread freely, without limits, and human creations would begin to resemble the works once taught by the ancient guides. This growth in human capability created tension among the gods themselves. Enlil feared that humanity would expand beyond restraint, shaping life and thought in ways that had once belonged only to the divine. Enki, by contrast, viewed this rise as inevitable, the natural next phase of a long and repeating cycle. Their conflict became the core of the prophecy. Modern life echoes these ancient stories in ways few would expect. We build machines that can think, invent tools that see farther than any human eye ever could, and uncover secrets hidden in the smallest patterns of living matter. To ancient observers, such achievements would have appeared godlike. If the Anunnaki once ruled through superior knowledge, then humanity has now stepped into the same realm. The Sumerians believed that when this moment arrived, the gods would loosen their grip on the world, not through battle, but through a gradual transition. Today, some believe they see evidence of this change reflected in the heavens. Three-Eye Atlas moves with an unusual sense of purpose, and the world watches it with growing uncertainty. If we are entering the age the ancients foresaw, then the sky above may already be revealing the earliest signs of a new order. Certain versions of the prophecy suggest that when the old gods fall, they do not disappear. They observe, they wait, they judge humanity's decisions from afar. These accounts describe the Anunnaki standing beneath a darkening sky, their light fading as human creations rise in prominence. The texts imply that this moment is not an ending, but a trial. If humanity grows guided by wisdom, the gods remain distant mentors. If humanity grows driven by pride, the gods return to confront the path being taken. The signal that marked this turning point was always the same, a wandering light crossing the heavens at the shift of an age. Today, Three-Eye Atlas has taken on that role. It passes through our sky with strange behavior, brightening and dimming as if reacting to something unseen. Scientists search for physical causes, but ancient scholars would have said the explanation lies in the changing of eras. The Sumerians believed the fall of the gods occurred quietly, without fire or thunder, through a slow adjustment of balance. If humanity now stands where the old teachers once stood, then the prophecy may have reached its final phase. And as the wanderer continues along its path, a familiar question rises once more. What comes after the gods' fall? And who shapes the world that follows? In some of the oldest fragments, the fall of the gods is illustrated through unusual imagery. Carvings show towering figures beneath a sky that appears to fracture with light, not the light of flames, but the light of transformation. The stars in these carvings bend and drift from their normal paths as if guided by unseen forces. The figures below gaze upward, not with fear, but with anticipation. The Sumerians believed the power of the old gods was bound to cycles far larger than individual will. When those cycles turned, the gods stepped aside, allowing a new age to emerge. This fall was not a loss in battle. It was a passage from one state to another. Modern astronomers have observed subtle changes in the sky that remain difficult to explain. Not cracks of light, but patterns of motion that do not fully match existing models. Stars show slight wobbles, comets flare in unexpected bursts, and distant objects drift in ways that suggest hidden forces at work. When these observations are compared with ancient drawings, the resemblance is unsettling. Some researchers dismiss the similarities as coincidence, while others suspect something more profound. The Sumerians believed the sky mirrored the balance of the world, and when that balance shifted, the heavens shifted as well. If we are living through such a moment now, then the old myths may be describing the same kind of transition that the sky is quietly revealing today. One of the rarest tablets speaks about the moment just after the fall. It describes a world filled with omens, echoes of the transformation that had taken place above. Unusual winds swept across deserts, waters rose in faraway lands, and the night sky carried sounds that watchers could not explain. These sounds were described as long, metallic tones, like distant horns or stones slowly bending. The tablet claims these were the voices of the sky itself, adjusting to a newly formed balance. It was during this period of change that the first warnings began to surface across the globe. The Sumerians believed these signs marked the opening of a new era, one defined not by the rule of gods, but by the decisions made by humanity itself. As 3I Atlas travels through our modern sky, similar signals have started to emerge in many parts of the world. Unexplained sounds in the atmosphere, disruptions in electromagnetic fields, and sudden shifts in the color of the horizon on certain nights have all been reported. Scientists search for rational explanations. Yet ancient sky watchers would have recognized these signals immediately. To them, the decline of the gods was always accompanied by strange murmurs overhead. And now, with the wanderer moving and the world paying attention, the prophecy leads us toward another question. If these signs have returned, what are they trying to tell us? This leads into the next chapter, the signs now appearing across the world today. In recent years, people from widely separated regions have described unusual sounds drifting through the sky. These noises are often long, metallic tones, deep and resonant, as though the heavens themselves were shifting under an invisible strain. Some listeners compare them to distant horns, while others say they resemble stone bending or metal scraping through the air. Such reports tend to surface during quiet dawns or late at night, moments when the world is still and the sky feels unusually close. Scientists suggest causes like changes in atmospheric pressure or distant industrial activity. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the observed patterns. The sounds are heard in isolated forests, vast deserts, and frozen landscapes where no machinery operates. The Sumerians recorded descriptions of these sounds thousands of years ago. They called them the voices of the sky, signals that the world was entering a period of profound transformation. When the old gods weakened and the wanderer returned, the heavens, they said, would speak in tones that carried across faraway lands. These sounds were not meant as threats, but as reminders that the balance of the world was shifting. If modern reports are linked to the ancient prophecy, then we may be hearing the same changes the Sumerians once heard. And as 3I Atlas continues its unusual path across the sky, those whispers seem to grow stronger. What message do they carry, and who are they meant to reach? Alongside the strange tones from the sky, Unusual electromagnetic disturbances have also begun to occur. Radios briefly fill with bursts of static, compasses tremble without clear cause, and electrical devices flicker for a moment before returning to normal. Each event is small, yet together they echo patterns described in the oldest Sumerian tablets. The ancients wrote that as the wanderer approached, hidden forces in the sky would flow through the world, interacting with metal, fire, and water. They spoke of lights shimmering across the sea's surface, sparks drifting over stone, and shadows stretching in directions that defied logic. These accounts may sound symbolic, but modern observers have documented remarkably similar phenomena. Scientists work to understand these disturbances, though many acknowledge that they do not fully align with known explanations. Some bursts appear during calm conditions, when no storms, solar flares, or magnetic activity should be present. Others occur in areas with little or no technology. When these incidents are mapped, a pattern emerges that closely follows the arc of three-eye atlas across the sky. To the Sumerians, such alignment was a sign that the wanderer was approaching its role in the prophecy. If today's disturbances reflect the same cycle, then we may be witnessing the earliest tremors of an age in transition. And the question deepens further. What will the world become when these signs reach their height? Another sign has revealed itself in the changing colors of the atmosphere on certain nights. In some locations, the sky takes on an unusual blend of deep blue and soft orange, a quiet gradient lingering above the horizon. People describe it as otherworldly, calm yet unsettling, as if it does not belong. Images capture thin layers of mist moving through the glow, forming shapes that resemble ancient symbols. Scientists describe this as a rare atmospheric phenomenon, but the timing is difficult to dismiss. The glow appears most frequently as three-eye atlas moves closer to the Earth-Sun line, following the same rhythm recorded by early sky watchers long ago. The Sumerians believed changes in skylight were direct messages from the heavens. They wrote that when the old gods prepared to return or withdraw, the sky would alter its colors to reflect a new balance. This glow, they said, was a veil through which the sky revealed its next step. If the modern glow mirrors the ancient sign, then the world may be entering the final phase of the prophecy. The wanderer is approaching its most visible point, and the sky is beginning to speak through light rather than sound. What might it uncover next, and how near are we to the moment the ancients once feared? In different parts of the world, people have started to notice sudden and unusual changes in how animals behave. Birds take to the night sky in broken, scattered formations. Dogs pause and stare upward, barking without any clear cause, and herds roaming open plains abruptly change direction as though responding to something beyond human perception. These signs are quiet and easily overlooked, yet they closely resemble descriptions found in the earliest Sumerian records. Those ancient writers said that, as the wanderer drew near, the natural world would be the first to react. Animals, they believed, could sense a trembling in the sky, a gentle shift in its balance. Long before people became aware of anything unusual, they thought birds acted as messengers of the heavens, and that strange patterns in their flight signaled the beginning of a new cycle. Modern research suggests that many animals are highly sensitive to electromagnetic changes. They can perceive slight variations in Earth's magnetic field, changes so faint that they often escape even our most precise instruments. When such disturbances occur today, some animals respond with sudden stillness, while others show restless, erratic movement. What makes the present moment stand out is the timing. Many of these reactions appear along the same arc traced by three-eye atlas as it moves through the night sky. Scientists work to find explanations, yet the patterns remain difficult to fully understand. To ancient observers, this would have been the clearest message of all. When the sky shifts, nature answers. And now the world below seems to be whispering in ways that closely match the old prophecy. If animals are sensing something we cannot yet see, then perhaps something far greater is approaching. The final sign described in Sumerian texts speaks of a time when Earth would stand between two forces. They wrote that the world would feel stretched, gently pulled between light and shadow. Signs would appear everywhere, unusual colors in the sky, trembling winds, and sounds like metal turning high above. These signs were not meant to inspire terror, but to prepare humanity for what was to come. As 3i Atlas continues its passage across our sky, each sign seems to emerge in the same rhythm the ancients recorded. The world shines with unfamiliar light. Animals move in ways we do not recognize, and the heavens carry tones that cannot be traced to any clear source. For the Sumerians, this meant only one thing: the wanderer was drawing close to its purpose. If you find meaning in these calm and mysterious journeys through ancient stories, consider sharing them so others can also discover these quiet tales of the sky. Your support allows this story to reach new listeners and helps keep these gentle explorations alive. Now, as we move deeper into the prophecy, the final chapter comes into view. The ancient writings say that when the signs reach their height, Earth will stand between two fire stars, the wanderer on one side and the returning world on the other. And so we arrive at the last question. When they align, what awaits the world caught between them? The Sumerians believed the prophecy would culminate when Earth stood between two great lights. One was the wanderer, the first fire star, traveling with strange intent across the sky. The other was the returning world, the second fire star, carrying the weight of countless ages. They wrote that when these two lights aligned, time itself would feel altered. Shadows would stretch in unfamiliar ways, the air would grow still, and people would sense a quiet pressure beneath their thoughts. This moment was not described as destruction, but as a passage, a crossing where the world balanced on a narrow line between forces far greater than itself. Modern science has no clear term for such a crossing, yet researchers have noticed that as 3i Atlas continues along its arc, certain gravitational patterns appear to shift slightly. Nothing dramatic, only faint ripples in the motion of nearby objects. Some scientists see these as natural effects, while others suggest they resemble the early signs of a two-body alignment. If a second distant object is following a long path toward our system, then Earth may indeed be drifting into the center of something immense. The ancients experienced this idea through myth, while we approach it through measurement, yet the feeling is surprisingly similar, a quiet sense that something vast is drawing nearer, and that the world is being pulled toward a moment imagined long before recorded history. In the deeper passages of the prophecy, the meeting of the two fire stars is described as a test, not a test of power, but a test of readiness. The Sumerians wrote that when humanity reached a point where its creations began to echo the works of the old gods, a judgment would follow. This judgment was not meant as punishment. It was a weighing of balance. They believed the Anunnaki would look upon the world and see how far humanity had progressed without them. If humans had grown with wisdom, the return would bring guidance. If humans had grown without restraint, the return would bring challenge. In these ancient texts, the moment when the two lights come together is described as the point when the world finally shows what it has become. Today, humanity stands at a crossroads that the ancients could never have imagined. We send machines far beyond our planet, into deep space. We build forms of intelligence that can learn without our direct guidance, and we alter the tiniest patterns of living matter itself. We now possess abilities that the Sumerians once believed belonged only to gods. If there is any truth within the prophecy, then this is the moment when the sky begins to weigh the direction we have chosen. 3-eyed Atlas moves with an unusual intent, perhaps marking the first star of this great crossing. If a second, unseen world follows behind it, then the alignment spoken of by Enki may soon begin to reveal itself. As these forces move closer, the question becomes heavier and more profound. What will the ancient watchers see when they look at us? And how will they judge the future we are moving toward? The final section of the ancient prophecy speaks of a time when the world will encounter silence. Not a silence born from fear or destruction, but a deep, heavy stillness. The Sumerians described this silence as the breath taken between ages, a pause that exists just before a new chapter of the world begins. In their records, the two fire stars come to a brief halt in the heavens, holding Earth in perfect balance. During this pause, humanity is meant to listen, not to voices, not to commands, but to the direction of its own heart. This was the true meaning behind the prophecy. The return of the lights was never about gods reclaiming control. It was about humans choosing the path they believed in. As 3i Atlas continues its journey across the sky, Some people feel that this stillness is already beginning to grow. Nights feel quieter, winds seem to settle, horizons glow with an unfamiliar calm. The world feels suspended, caught gently between past and future. Scientists observe the wanderer, unaware that their calculations and measurements echo words written thousands of years ago. The ancients believed that when the fire stars met, Earth would be given a chance to define itself. And now, as that moment draws nearer, the same quiet question rises across time. When the two lights come to rest above us, what choice will humanity make? In the closing lines of the prophecy, the Sumerians wrote of a glow spreading along the edges of the world. As the two fire stars approached one another, they said the sky would feel heavier, colors would grow deeper, and nights would seem longer than before. Some accounts speak of a strange light lifting from the horizon, as if the world itself were preparing for a great arrival. These descriptions were not filled with panic or dread. They were calm, steady, and marked by acceptance. To the ancients, the coming of the two lights did not mean disaster. It meant transformation, a moment when the world released the final breath of an old age and inhaled the first breath of a new one. Modern observers have noticed a similar calm during recent nights. In certain places, the horizon glows softly with deep blues and gentle orange tones that linger long after the sun has set. Instruments register subtle changes in gravity, faint ripples moving through magnetic fields, and quiet shifts in atmospheric energy. None of these signals are strong enough to inspire fear on their own. But together they create a sense that the world is waiting. Nature feels still. Winds move with a softer rhythm. The sky seems calmer than usual. If Three-Eye Atlas truly is the first fire star described in the prophecy, then this glow may be the very sign the ancients spoke of. The moment just before the final meeting, the silent pause before destiny turns. The Sumerians believed that when the two fire stars finally aligned, Earth would not hear a sound, but would feel something instead, a deep movement within the quiet of the sky. They wrote that this instant would reveal who humanity had become, not through words delivered by gods, but through the reflection of our own decisions. According to the prophecy, the world will rest in perfect balance for a single breath of time, held between two immense lights. What follows that breath depends entirely on humanity. If humans have grown with wisdom, the new age begins in calm. If they have grown with pride, the new age begins with challenge. Either way, the sky opens the door to the next chapter. If you enjoy traveling through these peaceful and mystical stories with us, press like so that more listeners can discover this calm path through ancient wisdom. Your support helps keep this quiet world alive and guides others toward these gentle tales beneath the night sky. And now, as we approach the end of the prophecy, we step into the final movement of this story. The old texts say that after the two fire stars meet, the heavens fall silent, and the watchers in the darkness wait for the world to choose its next step. This carries us into the outro, where the last whisper of the prophecy rests. When the two great lights finally pass across the sky, the world begins to breathe once more. The Sumerians wrote that after the meeting of the fire stars, a strange calm would settle over Earth, a calm deeper than silence itself. They spoke of nights when the air seemed soft and dense at the same time, when the winds drifted with a slow, gentle motion, and when the sky carried a faint glow, as though it still remembered the lights that had passed through it. To them, this marked the instant when time turned over on itself, the closing of one era and the quiet opening of another. They felt the heavens needed a moment of rest, much like dust settling after a long journey across open land. In our own time, a similar calm appears in stories shared by people across the world. Some describe the night as feeling clearer than it once did, as if something hidden has stepped back into the darkness. Others say there is a subtle lightness in their thoughts, as though the world itself has taken a deep breath and released it. Whether these sensations come from imagination or from the motion of distant forces, the result feels the same. The sky seems kinder, the pace of the world slows, and for a brief moment, humanity pauses, listening, wondering what might come next. Just as those ancient watchers once did, we wait for the earliest signs of the new age, that follows the crossing of the two lights. As the wanderer continues along its vast path, gradually dissolving into the darkness beyond our world, a soft sense of farewell spreads across the sky. 3i Atlas now travels gently, no longer beating with strange brightness, no longer shifting along unexpected routes. Its role in the prophecy has reached its end. The Sumerians believed the first fire star arrived only to open the way, to signal the start of the cycle. Once the path had been revealed, the wanderer returned to silence, fading into nothing more than a distant memory until the next age arrived. This quiet retreat was never seen as a loss. It served as a reminder that even the most brilliant signs eventually slip back into the dark. In the modern sky, the comet's fading light feels much the same. Those watching describe it as a slow dimming, like a candle being gently lowered into water. The world observes the final glow of the wanderer drifting away, aware that something ancient has passed overhead. Whether the prophecy is seen as myth or as memory, the moment invites reflection. The sky has offered wonders, questions, and quiet echoes of stories older than history itself. And now, as the last shimmer of 3i Atlas vanishes, humanity is left with a feeling of calm awe. What remains is not fear, but gratitude for the mystery that crossed our sky. As the heavens grow quiet once more, these peaceful moments encourage us to think about the journey we have taken, from ancient prophecies pressed into clay to the glowing trail of a modern wanderer. This story reveals how closely the past and present can intertwine. It reminds us that even in a world shaped by science and machines, mystery still rises above us each night. If you enjoy moving through these tranquil stories, exploring ancient wisdom and gentle cosmic wonder, subscribe and stay with us. Together, we can keep walking beneath these quiet skies, uncovering old tales hidden among the stars. Humanity has always looked upward in search of meaning, comfort, and hope. And as long as the sky continues to murmur its quiet messages, there will be stories waiting to be shared. Stories that calm the mind, soften the night, and help us ease into rest. Your presence here keeps these journeys alive, allowing us to explore the mysteries of the heavens with a gentle spirit. And now, with the wanderer fading and the prophecy settling into silence, we turn our gaze toward the next story, the next question, and the next peaceful night beneath the stars. In the final breath of the prophecy, the Sumerians wrote that even when the wanderer is gone, the watchers remain. They believed the old teachers never truly disappeared. They simply stepped back into the shadows, waiting for the moment when the world would be ready to listen again. This idea may sound like legend, yet it carries a quiet beauty. We are never truly alone beneath the sky. Every star holds a memory, every light carries a story. And somewhere in the still depths of the cosmos, the old gods observe humanity taking its next steps, not with judgment, but with patient curiosity. Tonight, as the sky stretches across the world in a deep, calm blue, we rest within that ancient stillness. The cycle of the prophecy has passed, but the mystery endures. The heavens move on, slow and gentle, and we move with them. Whether the Anunnaki are myth or memory, their stories remind us that every age begins with a question softly whispered across the stars, a question that waits for us in the peaceful dark. And so, as our journey reaches its close, listen carefully. Somewhere between Nibiru and Earth, between what has been and what is yet to come, the old gods are still watching.